Hello, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Glad to be here tonight. I'm not gonna take up much of your time. Had some weird things with my camera. See my ear missing? But anyway, glad to be here tonight. I'm gonna just jump into it tonight. That light behind me, super bright. Okay, we just gonna rock with this tonight. All right. So you guys see, yeah, my topic tonight is unusual. We're gonna look at one section of scriptures. I believe God doing. I say this all the time, but God is always doing something. It's just we don't always see it. We don't always recognize it. And that's the thing that we have to do is be more attentive to the things that God is doing. People want you to be. We talked about last time, the week before last, about living out life out of focus, and we got to be focused on the things of God. Hey, Sandra, Sylvester. Um, yeah, we got to be focused. But tonight, I want to talk about this because I really believe this is prophetic. Uh, it was to us. God was speaking to me, and I was talking to a friend the other day, and I began to mention about this, and this has been in my spirit, especially after that conversation about the unusual. Um, God is doing unusual things. If you look all over the earth, look on TV, on the news, things are happening that's never happened before. We don't have to go through all those things. Hey, Lisa. Yeah, everything is good. Yeah, unusual things were happening. I was telling you guys last week about me getting pneumonia. Then, as soon as I recovered from pneumonia, I had to have oral surgery. And then, as soon as I had the oral surgery, then I caught coronavirus. And I just one thing after the other. And these things are, we all get sick. Things happen in life. So I don't, you know, overrate these things and try to make everything the devil and try to become a martyr. But these things happen sometimes because God is getting our attention and He's doing unusual things to do a work inside of us, things that we never would have confronted in our lives. Um, Things that are going to make you say, like Arsenio Hall used to say for those old folks that used to watch Arsenio, and you say, things that make you go, And some things you wonder why you run into certain people. You wonder why you reconnect with people that you met a long time ago. Wonder why some people are exiting your life and some people are entering your life. And all these things are happening. The opportunities that you never had is happening. Doors are opening that you never happened. Uh, uh, Things in you that you struggle with before, some kind of way is stirring up in you, and now it's not such a struggle. God is doing a new thing in all of us because life is changing. There's change in the atmosphere. And sometimes God changes us through the unusual, through those things that are when we're not comfortable, those things that we wouldn't expect in our life. You might run into people you wouldn't expect to run into, but through those people, God will bless you. God will bless you through people that you don't particularly like, people that you don't particularly want to would choose to be around. God will put you around them. He'll put you in places that you wouldn't particularly choose to be at. He'll give you a voice in places that you didn't think you would have a voice, because God is that type of God. He works through the darkness. He works through unusual things. And we go look at this passage of scripture to learn a few principles from this. Um, we're gonna be in Mark. Let me put it up for you. We're gonna be in Mark 8, starting at verse 22, just a few verses, and I'm not going to go anywhere else. So we're going to go through this real quickly, and I'm not going to rush it, but we're going to go through it and be done. So I'm going to go to this scripture and begin to read, and it says, what did I click off of it? It says, then he came to Bethesda, and who is he? Jesus. And they brought him a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. Uh, so he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the town. So there's a few principles, and I want to stop right here. When you begin to, God begins to do a work in your life, God will do some things in your life. He'll take you out of what is familiar to restore you. He'll take you out of situations that you're comfortable in order to do the extraordinary. He'll take you He'll do things that he's never done before in order to bring you out of one place into the next place. And so he'll take you out of those places, what is familiar to you, to restore us. How many can, if you were here, we were in person, you could raise your hand and say what worked before is not working no more. What satisfied me before don't satisfy me no more. What I want to see is not what I used to want to see. What I used to get excited about now gets on my nerves. What gets on my nerves, now I can tolerate. And so God is he's just changing us overall because he's preparing us for a season such as this. And so God often takes us what is familiar to restore us, to heal us, to deliver us, to bless us. And so it says back in the scripture, go back to it. It says, then he came to Bethesda and he brought the blind man to him. And when he brought the blind man to him, the first thing Jesus does is he takes him by the hand and he takes him out of town. He takes him out of a place of familiarity, or a place where he's not around the same folks he's been around. He's not in the same places that he used to be around. A place that he don't know how to navigate through or maneuver through because he's new to this place. And so he takes him out of town. And one thing too, the part about God grabbing his hand is a principle that you can't forget. God always guides you through unusual times. So when you get through places that's in situations that you're unfamiliar with, things that you're afraid of because it's not what you're used to seeing. Things that's happening that's like, oh, it makes you uncomfortable. It makes you sometimes even scared. God, you got to remember that God always will grab your hand. And so when people don't understand you and people don't guide you through and people are not there for you, understand that God will never leave you nor forsake you. God would always hold your hand through this thing. It may look dark in your life. It may look like you don't know which way you're going. It may look like you don't know what to do next. You don't know the answers to things that seem simple, but yet they're difficult. God says, I'll guide you through it. I'll give you the wisdom through it. And all you got to do is hold on to his hand. So God always guides you through. That's the second principle. God always guides you through unusual times. He won't leave you hanging. Just hold on to his hand. I used to sing that all the time. I didn't know what they was talking about. Hold to his hand, God's unchanging hand. People will change, situations will change. But one thing about God, he never changes. He's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore because he's eternal. He's Elohim. He's everywhere. He's a God that the substance and the core of who he is never changes. And so we got to understand that, and that God will take unusual situations and he will cause you to be blessed if you survive it, if you hold on and not give up. The devil wants you to give up in the midst of the unusual. He said, oh, I'm not used to that, and we shy away from it. Everybody does that at the beginning, but you got to have enough courage, you got to have enough faith to know that when you see the unusual, you got to say, God, if you want me here, I'll stay here. As I always say, I'd rather be I'd rather be in the valley with Jesus than be on the mountaintop with the devil. Because what happens is, a lot of us want to be on the mountaintop so much, we're willing to sacrifice God's presence for it. One thing about God, I'm like David. I can't sacrifice God's presence just to be in a particular place that I feel like is the land of milk and honey. If God's not there, I I, I can't be there. I want to be where God is. And that's how you get through unusual times, because now you have the guiding light. Now you have the Jesus, the light of the world. Now you have God who shines in the midst of darkness, who will lead you and guide you when there's no light, when there's no clarity, when there's no vision, when there's nothing you can see that will excite you and encourage you. God will shine a light and cause you to see what you need to see in that given moment. He'll encourage you. The Bible says he's the lifter of our heads. So he'll encourage you in moments where you feel like you have nothing left, you have no one left, and you're all by yourself. And all of a sudden, King Jesus rises up. And it's not that he's rising up, it's just we recognize him at certain moments. And we have that God moment. And so we gotta embrace that and say, God, I want to be where you are. Whatever you're doing in this season, God, don't do it without me, God. Whatever you're doing, God, I want to be a part of, God, because I'm here for your glory. You saved me and brought me out of darkness to the marvelous light that I'll show forth praise. You didn't call me to show forth depression, and you didn't call me to show forth defeat, but you called me to show forth your praises. And so I'm going to praise you at all times. I'm going to bless your name. And I'm going to go through the storm with my hands lifted up and my mouth filled with praise, because this is unusual. But I understand that because God has put me in unusual situations because he's trying to get something unusual to me. So that's the third principle. God will do the unusual to get the unusual out of you. What happened in the story? Let's go back to the story that we started reading. Uh, in verse 24. Well, now verse 23. He said, so he took the blind man by the hand. So I mean, he guided him. He didn't say go do something, and then leave him to be on his own. Whenever God tells you to go to a new place or reposition yourself, He will help you reposition yourself. He'll help you get to where you need to be, because positioning is so important. And that's a whole nother study. So I'm not gonna get into that. But being in the right position is so important in life. And he says what? And then what did Jesus do? He spit in his eyes. That's the unexpected. Now, you would expect, why does Jesus got to spit in this man's eyes? He could just put his hand on the man and heal the man and do whatever the man needs and walk off. Why did Jesus have to spit in the man's eyes? But often we don't have an explanation for that, but Jesus does unexpected things because he's trying to teach us something unexpected. He's trying to teach us something that and open our eyes to something that we wouldn't see if he didn't do the unexpected. And sometimes God will do something that's unorthodox. Sometimes God will do things that nobody understands, not even yourself, but he'll speak it and he'll reveal it. And you'll be like, I don't understand. Jesus said, I didn't ask you to understand it. All I asked you to do was obey me. Because I know he said, in all I get an understanding. We do need understanding in our life, but there's sometimes in life where we're not going to understand things that's happening in our life. And sometimes if you can overdo it, trying to and overthink that thing and cause yourself to miss out on the simplicities of God's blessing. You know what I'm saying? God's blessings sometimes can be very simple, but because we overcomplicate life, we overcomplicate ourselves and make ourselves so complicated and life so complicated, sometimes we miss the very minute, simple things that God does in our lives to reveal His glory. Because God's the God, he's trying to be deep. He just keeps it simple, and He's faithful, and He's just. So God will use unusual things to get unusual things out of you. So sometimes God will cause something, that person that you ran into, you don't understand why. That's Jesus' form of spitting in your eye. That's Jesus' form of those things that's been happening to you that's kind of like never happened to you before. Those things are Jesus' form of spitting in your eye. And like I said, I don't have an explanation. I didn't ask Jesus himself. He didn't reveal exactly why he spit in this man's eye. I don't think it's my business. And I don't claim to have a revelation of why he spit in the man's eyes. We all can break this down theologically and try to make a nice sermon out of it. But he spit in the man's eyes. We know that's not orthodox. We saw a modern day pastor that did that physically and spit, and he got bombarded on social media about it. And people thought it was filthy and nasty because it was unusual. And I'm not getting to whether he was wrong or right. I got my own opinion, but that doesn't matter at this moment. But physically, of course, that's nasty. It's like you put spit on the man's eyes. Like, Jesus, you got more power than to have to put spit on the man's eyes to make him be able to see. What are you doing? And that's the kind of situation we're finding ourselves in. Situations where we don't have answers, situations that look messy and nasty and ugly. And we're about to throw in the towel because we think we're finished when God says you hadn't even got started yet. And so God says, I'm about to open up doors I never opened up in your life. I'm about to do things in your life you've never seen me do before. In spite of your inconsistency, in spite of who you are, in spite of your failures, in spite of your bad decisions, in spite of all the things that you failed, God says, I'm still with you. Lo, I'm with you always. I'm until the end of the time. God's going to show you in this season that He's with you. And He says, what? He spit on his eyes, and then he put his hands on him and asked him if he saw anything. So this is another principle, and we actually almost done. So he said, this is another principle, and I hope I'm not going too fast. But this is real simple, not hard to follow anyway. So he puts his, what verse? And he looked up and said, he said he spit in his eyes and he put his hands on him. So God will spit in your eye, and he'll get something to catch your attention, and then He'll ask you, what do you see? And so God is mentioning this because vision is important. What you see and how you see has a direct correlation to your level of maturity. A mature person doesn't see things like a childish person. A spiritual person doesn't see things like a carnal person. Doesn't make one smarter than the other. It's just your vision is different when you're in a certain state. And God oftentimes, when He not only touches you to do something different in your life, before He sends you away or sends you in the place you need to be, He'll test your vision. He wants to know that you're able to see well. And when He said that, I'm really I began to see myself in the doctor's office getting my eye test. I've been wearing glasses for most of my life, And when you go in there, they test your vision in order to give you a prescription. And they ask you to read the letters. What do you see? They ask you, what do you see? And based upon what do you see, they begin to prescribe. They begin to get numbers and get all these combinations of things together in order to give you a prescription that you can see very well, that you can see clearly, and basically have 20/20 vision. Even though your normal natural eye can't see 20/20 vision, when you take that test and they ask you, what do you see? And you have to read those letters out. And if you can't read those letters out, then they understand that too. Hey, cuz, good to see you. Love you. Yeah. And so, yeah, when you read those numbers off and those letters off, then they understand. They'll tell you that they know you're nearsighted, you're farsighted, or you got something wrong with this eye, or this is wrong. That's how they diagnose you. And based on that, they're able to give you a prescription and give you a pair of glasses that you can put on your eyes, and everything's not foggy, that you're not living out of focus, that you're not living life, not being able to see clearly, to make good decisions, to make good judgments in life. And so when he spit in his eyes, when he presented the unusual to him, he said he put his hands on him. He asked him if he saw anything. And the man said he looked up and said, I see men like trees walking, in verse 24. And based upon that, I don't know how Jesus interpreted that, what he saw, but basically that might have not been what he should have been seeing, or he was misinterpreting what he was seeing. And he didn't have clarity, and Jesus knew that. So then Jesus put his hands on him again. And so what happens is, like, God will put his hands on your life and he'll make adjustments. And that's what the doctor does with that machine. They begin to make adjustments. They say, oh, you see, there's one or two clear. And when you say two, then they'll move the little thing, and they'll click, and that'll make the prescription change in the left eye or the right eye or both eyes. And then they'll know whether you need a bifocal and all those type of things. They begin to make adjustments the whole time. And so basically, in order to give you clear vision, they have to get feedback from you. And so they want to hear what you're saying. And see, God, sometimes in order to know what level of life that he can use, what level that he can use you in, and what he can trust you with, he needs feedback from you. And so he'll ask you questions to see what's really in your heart, to see if you're seeing the right thing, and see if you're perceiving the right way, and see if you love people the right way, and see if you're ready for the next chapter of your life, if you're ready for this next thing that he has for you. And then he'll say, then he put his hands on him again and made him look up. And so when God begins to do unusual things, sometimes he'll take you in situations where you have no choice but to look up. You've depended on mom and daddy, sister and brother, your friends, and your cousin, them, and all them other folks. And you've been calling folks every time you got in trouble, and sometimes they rescue you. But God says, this is what you're going through now, this unusual time, this time of the unexpected in your life. Now you don't have nobody to turn to. You see, like, when you turn to the left, there's nobody there. When you turn to look straight ahead, there's nobody there. When you turn to the right, there's nobody there. And even behind you, you feel like nobody's there, or somebody's coming after you to get you. And you're walking in fear, you're walking in anxiety, and walking in all these different things. But God is saying, man, this unusual thing has come, and these things are coming because I'm getting your attention, because your name your name has my attention. Your life has my attention. I've called you to something. I ordered steps in your life. I ordered something in your life that I'm going to bring to pass, no matter how ugly it's gotten, no matter how gooky and nasty it's gotten in your life. God says, I have something so powerful that I want to release through your life. And he says, then he put his hands on him again and made him look up, and he was restored. The moment you look up, the moment that you connect with God in your moment of difficulty, in the moment where you feel the weakest, all God wants you to do is learn how to look up. And sometimes our unusual experiences and our trials and tribulations come only to teach us that we need to look up, to remind us that we can't live this life by ourselves, that we can't do it on our own. But we need Jesus. We need Jesus to guide us. We need Jesus to speak to us. We need God's wisdom. We need God's strength. We need everything, because God is everything. We live and we move and have our being because of him. And sometimes we forget that, because we got our degrees, we got our money in the bank, we got our little knowledge we think we have, we think we smart, and we just say, oh, I don't need you, Jesus. But he put his hands on it, he made him look up, and he was restored and saw everything clearly. So now that he has clear vision, then Jesus sent him away to his house, back to a place of familiarity. So you can't, and I think I best made a word up, but anyway, he brought him back to a place where he was familiar with, a place where he was before. But sometimes you can't change your environment till God changes you, and God will take you out of your environment to do a work in your life. and bring you back in that same environment to change the very people that he called you to. And so God will pull you out of an environment, and when he prepares you and fixes your heart and your mind and your emotions are able to handle it, he'll bring you back. He'll send you back home. And he said, "Don't tell nobody about it." And so let me tell you these last two principles that story teaches me. If you survive and endure the unusual, God will put his hands on your life. It's his stamp of approval. God will approve everything that he's spoken over your life, and he'll show people. Not you don't have to say nothing, you don't have to do nothing. People will see God's glory and manifestation of who he is in your life, and they'll understand it because God will show his glory through your life. But you got to survive the unusual. You got to survive those moments of the unexpected, those moments in your life where you really want to throw in the towel. It's much easier to quit than it is to press. And so God says, in this season, I need you to press toward the mark. I need you to press through this thing, because on the other side of your press, there's something powerful. There's something, and sometimes on the other side, there's literally the things that you've been praying for on the other side. But you've allowed your fears, you've allowed your insecurities, you've allowed the things in your life that's been strangling you and paralyzing you for years and decades. You've allowed those things to keep you from your next. You keep you from what's on the other side of your press. And if you just press toward that thing, if you survive and endure the unusual, God will put his hands on your life. It's his stamp of approval. You want to be anointed, and your stamp of approval is not to put a bishop's collar on and have a title on your name. The power of God, when you go through the storm and the rain and that oil of God is on your head, people will see that oil on your head. They know when you open your mouth, God is behind it. They know when you make a move, God is behind it, because they see the very things that people can't do within themselves. God is manifesting through your very life. At the same time that you're imperfect, the same time that you messed up sometimes, the same time where you feel like you have no more strength, God will take your very little weak life and your weak mind, your weak body, he'll take all those things and he'll make his strength made perfect. And he'll be strong and stand up inside of you. And people will see God in your life. And then another thing, God will adjust your vision before he sends you into your destiny. So a lot of us are going through what we're going through because God's trying to adjust our vision. God's trying to adjust the way we see things. God's trying to adjust the way we see people. God's trying to adjust the way we see ourselves. God's trying to adjust your vision. You've been seeing yourself the wrong way forever. You've been seeing people the wrong way forever. First of all, you can't see yourself honestly and straight. You won't see nobody else. And so God works with you on how you see yourself before he deals with you about dealing with other people. So God's trying to adjust your vision before he sends you in certain places. He has to adjust your vision. He don't want to send you out. Me, I have to, when I drive, it's on my license. I'm supposed to have on glasses. And so I have to put these glasses on. If I get stopped and don't have my glasses on while I'm driving, I'm actually breaking the law, because my license says I can't operate a motor vehicle without an adjustment of my sight, without these glasses. These glasses are adjustment. When I take these off, my computer screen looks totally different than it does when I put them on. I'm not that blind, but it does look a little foggy. So what happens is God has to adjust your vision. He has to adjust your sight, the way you see things, the way you perceive your situations. He has to mature you before he sends you to your destiny. And then the last thing, when God restores you, what did he tell? He said, don't tell nobody. He said, when God restores you, you don't have to tell nobody. They'll see it. Don't tell them, but show them. And so God, when he does that, he'll show them that you've been changed. And people say, what's wrong with you? What's gotten into you? You're like, I don't know. Because you'll operate differently. Your stamina is different. The way you square up your shoulders, you have confidence that you never had before. You say things that you've never said before, and you don't recognize it because God has changed you from the inside out. And he's done all of this through the unusual. And some of y'all are spooked out because you're like, man, this is like, my life is like a scary movie. Things are happening, man, and the devil is over here. People are coming at me. Things are coming at me that I've never seen before, that I used to be able to navigate through. Now I feel like I'm in a lane I've never been in before. And I don't know how to navigate. I don't know my way around. Hold on to God's unchanging hand. Endure this season of the unusual. All types of things happen. Right now, it's hot in places it should be cold, and it's cold in places it should be hot. There's things happening that we never thought would happen, but it's happening. And so we got to understand that's just the hand that's been dealt. And so we got to take these things and navigate through it with God in order to bring God's glory out of it, because God don't allow things to happen for no reason. God's not God. The devil has some authority in the earth, so he's going to do what he does. But God also has a plan. And God's plan and what He spoke over your life doesn't change. His promises has not. He's not revoked the promises that He spoke over your life. You know, everything that He spoke is yes and amen. Everything that He spoke over your life, it still stands. He hadn't revoked the contract that He made with you. Whatever He spoke to you, whatever He told you, He's going to do it in your life. But you got to endure the unusual and the unexpected seasons in your life. You got to be mature enough to say, I still know God's with me, even though life looks a mess. And know that He's on your side, and that He's going to teach you, and that He's trying to get something to you. He's not trying to take from you. He's not trying to destroy your life. He's not trying to embarrass your life. Yes, endure the season of the unknown, holding on to God's hands. Yes, Sandra. That's exactly all. If you don't get nothing else tonight, just hold on to God's hand. Don't give up on God. The song says, because He won't give up on you. He's able. There's a song that says He's able, and He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all. My Bible says, above all we can ask or think. And it's according to what? The power that's in us. God has put a power in you, and God has put something in you that you don't even know that you have. And it's only sometimes when you go through unusual moments, when you go through these unexpected moments, and you see what comes out of you, that you recognize that you're more powerful than you thought. You know, Whitney Houston, one of my favorite songs she made. Yeah, God's not a giver, not a taker. He doesn't take from you. You know, God's a giver. God multiplies. One of my favorite songs Whitney sung was "I Didn't Know My Own Strength." And when I feel like somebody's on here tonight that you don't know your own strength, you don't know the power that you really have on the inside of you, and you really think that thing that's going on in your life, the thing that's come against you, and the things and what they did to you is gonna kill you. If you knew how powerful you were, you wouldn't even you wouldn't lose no sleep over this. You wouldn't get upset and unsettled and full of anxiety over some of the things that's going on in your life if you recognize the power that was on the inside of you. If you recognize the prosperity is on the inside of you, your bank account wouldn't scare you because it don't have nothing in it hardly. Because God says there's rivers of prosperity, there's rivers of streams of income on the inside of you. If you stop letting your fears and your insecurities guide your life, but hold on to God's hand. And when God takes you in a place where you feel spooked out or you feel scary, you feel like you can't handle it, understand that you're holding the hand of God and God's holding your hand. And He's not gonna leave you. Now I go up in the alley and see Jolly the Green Giant with two pistols and a shank. I might leave you, but God's not gonna leave you. I know that was a crazy illustration I just said, but God's not gonna leave you. You might feel like you're in a dark alley by yourself, but God says, "I'll never leave you nor forsake you." I can talk about this all night, but just know on here tonight, God will never leave you nor forsake you. I know what's happening in your life is unusual. I know what may be happening in your body. You might be facing sickness and disease and different things coming. I don't know what you're facing, but understand that through the unusual, God will bring the unusual. He's going to bless you with some things He never would have been able to get to you, some things that He's never done in your life before. He has the opportunity and He's going to do it in this season in your life. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. Don't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow, but worry about the present moment of what God is doing in your life and be thankful. Lift your hands up and praise Him in spite of it, and be full of thanksgiving. I don't thank you for it, God, but I thank you in it because I understand that, God, if I give thanks, I'm in your will. I might not know nothing else to do, but I know, God, if I praise you and I give you glory and I give you honor and I don't denounce the name of Jesus and I don't denounce your power and I don't denounce your faithfulness, that God, in the end, the blessing of God will be waiting on me. There's something on the other side of your press. And if you just press, you might not think you're strong enough, but God's behind your press. God will give you the strength. And the joy of the Lord is your strength. Don't let the devil take your joy. Don't let people take your joy. Don't let nobody take your joy. And when God gives you joy and put it in your heart, don't let you guard your heart. You guard your joy. You guard your peace because you need it. It's the most valuable thing you have. You thought that $100 bill you had in your wallet or what you got in your account was the most valuable thing you had, or that necklace in your jewelry box was the most important thing and the most valuable thing you had. But the most valuable thing that you have in your life is your peace, your joy, and the love of God. And if you got those things in your heart, when you get those things, you can make it through anything. You can walk through troops and you can leap over walls because God is with you. He's not trying to take away from your life, but He's trying to add to your life. And just stick with Him. And don't give up. Don't give in. Don't give up on God because He won't give up on you. And know that He won't. I'm done, y'all. God bless you guys. I love you. I appreciate you guys coming on tonight. I hope you got something out of this. Share with somebody you know they're in in this season, this very season in their life. It might give them some clarity. It might give them some encouragement. And that's all I'm on here to do, to be blessed, to be a blessing to someone else. So I hope you guys got some out of this tonight. Endure. You know, that's a blessing for those that endure. Amen. Sometimes you just gotta outlast the devil. Your endurance is important. Get your spiritual cardio up because you're in for a run and for your money. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you got to endure until the end. And God has something for you, even on your way there. You don't have to wait till you get there. Like they tell you, don't shout. Don't wait till the battle is over to shout. Shout now. And that's what you got to do. Amen. Love you guys. Be blessed. And I'll see you guys next time. My schedule and things have been going on. Unusual things have been going on. So I've been on here seems like every other week. And I might start doing this every other week, so every week. But if I'm not on here, just know I'll be back the next week. I'm not gonna ever shut it down and not say anything. So I just want to explain myself to people that come on here regularly. But I'm gonna try my best to be on every week. But lately it's just been a little different, and I never want to come on here without anything really to say. So if I don't have anything to say, I'd rather not be on. So God bless you guys. Have a good night. Have a blessed week. And know that God is with you and God's about to do some miraculous things in your life. You deserve it, and God's going to do it in your life. His promise still stands. Don't forget that. All right. Good night, you guys. Love you.